Be nice to old ladies, even the cranky ones, because you never know which one might be a master Satanist. Welcome to Dodo's Horrorness, where we share a horror passion with you. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is not directed by James Wan. Will the lack of his horror brain hurt this movie in points? Let's find out. Another Conjuring movie and another great opening. There's a child here and he's showing signs of creepy boy possessed by demon syndrome. We see a priest arrive to the house to help them with the exorcism, and we see a reference to the original Exorcist. The kid hears some noises in his room and he wakes up, and he hides in the most demon-proof room that he can think of, which is the bathroom, which contains the most demon-proof place you can hide, which is the bathtub. While he's hiding in the bathtub, he looks up, and the rings that the bathtub have are these creepy rings that already look like fingers, and then you see like three of them kind of start to move, and you realize that those are fingers. It gets followed by the water getting turned on by itself, and then you see the water come out and it's full of red dye 40. When the adults go into the bathroom to check on the kid, they see him standing in a corner and he's doing all creepy stuff, just kind of hiding behind. And then he takes off running after the dad and he stabs him in the leg. They decide that there's no more time to wait, and they decide to do the exorcism right then and there. Ed picks up the kid on his shoulders and he's dragging him downstairs. And while he's going down the stairs, you get a really cool scene because you see the kid kind of reaching towards the wall. He's not reaching at it, but you still see claw marks on the walls that the demon that's possessing him are actually doing. While they're trying to calm the kid down, Lorraine starts seeing visions of somebody's old hands doing something kind of like witchcraft. The kid is becoming more and more powerful as they keep trying to control him, and a lot of stuff just starts flying all over the place. There's a flying plate that hits the priest and knocks him out. Ed decides that he's going to take over the exorcism. The person we're going to follow through this movie is Arnie. He's the kid's brother-in-law as he's dating the kid's older sister. Arnie starts talking to the demon and Ed tells him that that's a really bad idea. The kid then jumps on Ed, knocking him down, and while he's on top of him, he punches his heart and tells him that he's going to stop his heart. Right before he can do anything else, Arnie picks up the kid and he's like holding him right in front of him and he's telling him, "Take me instead," which the demon does. And the only person that sees this whole time is Ed, as everybody else is distracted. Lorraine with her visions and everybody else with the stuff that's flying all over the house. When everything calms down, Ed is unable to tell everybody that he saw the demon jump to Arnie as his heart is failing and they need to rush him to the hospital. It's another great opening scene for The Conjuring, as I think right now, as far as openings go, they are 3 for 3. The next day we see the family and they're having a cookout and Arnie goes inside his house to get some of the ingredients. He hears some noises in the house and he goes to see what it is, and whenever he turns around there's a woman entity that attacks him. The next scene is Arnie at work and he's on top of a tree and he's cutting down some branches. He has a chainsaw, and whenever he's about to start, he looks over at the house and he sees a woman entity that attacked him earlier standing on the window. It scares him a little bit, and he turns back around and his chainsaw starts on its own, and he's unable to control it and he drops it and it almost lands on somebody. Not feeling well, he goes back home to rest a little bit. When he gets home, we see that they're living in a vet where they have a lot of dogs, and the owner, his name is Bruno, and he's letting them live there rent-free. When Arnie gets there, Bruno starts haggling him to fix the radio that's been broken for a while. And you can visibly see how stressed Arnie is at this moment. Back at the hospital, and Ed wakes up and he finally tells Lorraine that they're in trouble because he saw the demon take Arnie. He tells them that they need to call them right now because there is no time to waste and this demon is going to hurt somebody soon. Back at the house, and Arnie has fixed the radio and is playing Call Me by Blondie, and Arnie still does not look well at all. Bruno is blasting this song all over the house, and you just see Arnie and he has like the biggest headache, and when he turns around he keeps seeing weird things. Like Bruno and his girlfriend are just dancing, having a good time, but he sees it in a different way. He then sees something in Bruno that looks a little bit off and he gets scared, so he grabs his girlfriend and starts running. His girlfriend is not understanding what's going on and she's trying to calm him down. He tells her to keep running and he trips, and when he turns around the song stops and he sees Bruno crawling at him really creepily. And Arnie grabs a knife and he starts stabbing him over and over. In his mind, he saw Bruno turn into some kind of demon and try to attack him and his girlfriend, but in reality, none of that was really happening. The next scene is him walking down the street, and you see a police officer drive past him and then he stops. When Arnie turns around, he's covered in blood and he tells the police officer that he thinks he has hurt somebody. Ed and Lorraine go visit Arnie and he's like, "Wasn't me." They're trying to prove that it wasn't him, in fact, and they want to show that he's been possessed by some kind of demon, so they give him a Bible and some Catholic items that he has to hold and read the Bible. He's able to read it no problem, he's able to hold everything no problem, so the Warrens are confused and they don't know how this demon is able to do this. They're talking to his lawyer and she's a skeptic because she doesn't believe that they'll be able to help him. There's all the proof in the world that he killed this man, so more than likely he's gonna go to jail for life. The Warrens tell him like, no, we can do not guilty and say it was by demon possession. She says that that's crazy, and he says, well, if you want to come over to our house, we can show you what we have and how demons are real, and I bet it'll change your mind. It's a funny scene because the next scene after this, it's her terrified in court, and she tells the judge, not guilty on account of demonic possession. The Warrens have only so much time to prove that it was a demon possession, and they track back the story back to when they first arrived at that house. The family tells them that when they arrived, the kid, he went to one of the bedrooms that had a water bed in it. He lays down in the water bed, and you see something floating in the water like a head. And then whenever the kid turns around, you see a hand pop out of nowhere trying to drag him down. He escapes this and gets soaking wet completely. The water goes all over the floor as well. The family in present time show the Warrens where the bed was at, that the water had ruined the wood underneath the bed. The Warrens tell them that that's not rotting because of the water. That's more classic demonic behavior, and you can't beat the classics. Lorraine has to crawl under the house to get to the spot where the bed was just to see if there's anything under there that they can find. Normally Ed would do this, but ever since his heart gave out on him, he's been having trouble moving around easily, so she goes for him. Once she gets to the spot, she sees something in a bag, and when she opens it, it's some kind of witch's totem. It's made out of bones, hair, rocks, all kinds of things. Instead of being just your average demonic possession, this is actually some kind of witch's curse. It's different in the way that the curse can be broken by the witch at any point and restarted whenever she feels like it. That's why Arnie was able to read the Bible and hold all those Catholic items. They get a tip on somebody that might be able to help them figure out where this totem came from. It's this old farmer that used to be a priest. He'll let them in his house, but he won't shake their hands because he says that his hands are covered in chicken shit. He says that he's seen totems like this before, but never one as sophisticated as this one. He takes them to his basement where he has other witches' totems, as well as a bunch of books that they can learn from. He says that this is work from a master Satanist and that they should not be messed with at all. We see the old lady witch hands once again, and she's doing witchcraft again, which means Arnie is about to get possessed once more. Arnie is mopping the floor at the prison, and he sees another inmate, and he starts to sing Call Me by Blondie. He's singing a cappella, as you're not allowed to bring any instruments into prison. A police officer gets in contact with the Warrens and says that they have a case where they found a witch's totem as well. They want help from them to see if they can help him find the body, as they haven't been able to find one of the two bodies that was lost. He doesn't believe the Warrens that she can see things. She makes her choose the murder weapon out of 3 options. Lorraine gets it right, and the cop's still a little bit skeptical. The cop will not release any help to the Warrens unless they find the body. While searching in the woods, Lorraine finds the spot where one of the girls was stabbed. She starts seeing visions of everything that happened, and I really enjoy the way the movie goes from real time to visions. She sees 2 girls running in the woods, and she begins to reenact the same thing. She takes off running, and Ed and the cop have to follow her. Whenever they get to where she's at, she's stabbed in the air, reenacting what happened. Ed tries to stop her, but in the vision, she sees the other girl take off running, so she also takes off running. She keeps running and running. She gets to the edge of a cliff, and she manages to stop herself on time. She knows that the other girl wasn't able to stop herself, and that she actually fell down, and that her body might be down there. Whenever she turns around to see Ed, something pulls her from behind, and Ed has to jump and catch her right on time before she falls down. The cops do search down there, and sure enough, they do find the body. These scenes here are going to give both a gore point and a bore point because I really like the visions that Lorraine has and the way it was filmed. But it's going to get a bore point because of the cliche cliff scene where somebody jumps and catches them right on time. When the Warrens make it back home, they get a call from the girlfriend and tells them that when she saw Arnie last, he told her that the demon is telling him to kill himself and that he doesn't have much time. Ed tells her to reach out to the priest and to put Arnie on suicide watch. The priest in the church does go visit Arnie and gives him a little bottle of holy water. Arnie grabs it and he's sitting in his bed in isolation, and he just starts to pray. Lorraine figures out that if she's able to touch one of the persons that's being cursed, then she can see the visions. She thinks that by seeing the visions that she'll be able to figure out where this witch is located at. They decide that the easiest way to do this is by going into the funeral home and literally breaking into it so they can touch the dead girl's hand and Lorraine can see a vision of the witch. It's after hours at the funeral home, so Ed breaks the glass and they break in and he just says that they're going to leave a note. They find her body and it's super gooey and wet and disgusting, and she reaches over and she grabs her hand, and personally I wouldn't have done that, but she's a lot braver than I am, even though you can see that she has a little bit of disgust in her face. Lorraine does get a vision from this though, and she sees an altar and a bunch of black candles. While she's doing this, she sees the witch and she's starting to get a hold of Arnie once again. When she possesses Arnie, we see Arnie holding still the holy water, And he breaks that glass and he grabs a little piece of glass and he's about to cut his wrist. Lorraine's still connected to her, starts screaming at her, and breaks the connection from the witch to Arnie, but keeps their connection. Now in this vision, they are seeing each other, and the witch asks Lorraine, how is she doing this? The only bad part is that Lorraine did not know that the witch would be able to see her, and now she knows who they are, and then she's going to come after them. In another great scene, we see another body in the funeral home stand up, and it's a really big boy, and he's also super wet and gooey. He turns around and he's about to attack Lorraine. Ed keeps telling her to stop the connection, but she can't hear him. So they both start attacking Lorraine. Ed manages to get to her right on time and pull her off the body, and as soon as she lets go of the hand, you just see the body drop. Unfortunately for this movie, it's the only memorable scene that I can personally remember compared to several moments in the first and second movie. They find a book that tells them that the only way to break this curse is by breaking the actual altar that the curse was cast from. They know that they have to find this place in order to help Arnie. While they're trying to figure out where this altar might be, Ed's heart gives out on him once again and he passes out. Whenever he wakes up, he sees that his house has been broken into, and whenever he turns around, it's actually the witch. She tells him that they have a nice collection, and then she disappears. He turns around and we see the big boy in their house this time, and he comes to attack Ed. He reaches out with his crucifix and then he stops him, and he's actually pushing him back, and he grabs a knife. He's about to stab the big boy, but then somebody stops him right on time, and whenever we see what was really going on, he was actually about to stab Lorraine. He was just having those witches' visions. This witch is very intense as it makes them hurt each other. And whenever they can't figure out how she's able to reach Ed, they find one of the vases that they receive flowers in. They break that vase and they see another witch's totem. So now she's targeting them as well as Arnie. All the visions and connections and things like that are fine in the movie. The only thing I don't like is that they say that they had to touch somebody's hand that's been cursed in order for her to have these visions. But they choose to go to the funeral home, break into it, and touch a dead girl's hand when they could have just gone to prison and touched Arnie's hand, and it would have done the same exact thing. It gave us some great scenes, but I feel like it leaves a plot hole in the story. While Ed is trying to figure that out, Lorraine goes back to the old man to see if he can help her some more. Whenever she gets there, they go down to his basement once again, and whenever he's telling her a story, Ed finds some information that we don't know what it is yet, but he gets in his car and he starts auditioning for the Fast and the Furious as he's driving about 100 down the highway. Whenever Lorraine is talking to the old man in his basement, he starts telling her a story about how when he was a priest, he actually had a daughter, and that's a big no-no. So he had to keep her a secret. He was big on the occult, and he was trying to stop them. But while he was doing his studies, his daughter was actually reading them as well, but she was becoming fascinated by them. We figure out that the witch is actually this guy's daughter. They realize that she's actually there. He leads her to her tunnel and tells Lorraine to keep going. The witch comes downstairs, and I'm telling you, she's intense. She does not care, and she actually kills her own dad right there. She goes and follows Lorraine into the tunnels. It's an okay twist for me, but we just didn't need the old man in this whole story, like, at all. He's there mostly just to give us backstory on the witch so we can know a little bit more about her. It's not terrible, it's just not that shock that I think they were going for. While Lorraine is running down the tunnels, she starts seeing visions of the witch, and she sees that she has killed her dad and that she's now going to follow her. I don't get this part because she's seeing visions again, but this time she's not touching anybody's hands. So I don't know how her visions work exactly, if she just had to touch somebody's hand once and then after that she's connected forever, or if she's just getting stronger. Ed finally gets to the location where Lorraine is at, and he hears her screaming from some bars in the street. Luckily for him, he finds a little shed that has a sledgehammer, and he breaks those bars, and he goes into the tunnels with sledgehammer in hand. As he's following the screams, he looks over in a corner and he sees Lorraine running at him, but in the last second it turns into the witch, and she blows some kind of powder into his eyes, blinding him with rage. He starts swinging the sledgehammer all over the place, almost hitting Lorraine even a few times, and he cannot control himself. So he keeps swinging, and Lorraine's trying to beg him to stop and that it's her. She keeps telling him things that they did in the past to get his memory back. While they're fighting it out, the witch is actually back at the altar. She's continuing her curse on Arnie. He becomes possessed once again in prison. His girlfriend is there to visit him, and we see Arnie start to do the pretzel thing that the demons do in these movies. He starts speaking in a different voice, and then he starts to levitate with a piece of glass in his hand. He puts it to his throat, but his girlfriend manages to grab his hand for just a little bit. And then back to Lorraine and Ed, She's actually leaning against the altar, and whenever Ed is there, he realizes what he's doing and he swings past Lorraine and hits the altar, breaking it in half. The curse then breaks, and we see Arnie fall down to the ground, and he's safe finally. Back with the Lawrence, however, we see the witch approaching them, and she's holding a knife. Before she can attack him, we see her hand just bend backwards completely, and then she starts to be a pretzel herself. Ed says that she has promised the demon a soul to take back to hell. Since she couldn't deliver that for the demon is not going to take her. We just see her whole body crack, and then she falls down with her legs all inverted the wrong way. It's a great scene, and it's a satisfying ending to the villain. It might be more satisfying here than the first two movies. It just lacks the rest of what made the first two great. After this, we get the final scene where it's custom in the Conjuring universe to see Ed put something in their demon room. This time is a chalice that was on the witch's table. The final scene, however, is Arnie in court, and he gets 5 years in prison for manslaughter compared to the death penalty that they were trying to give him prior to the Warrens helping him. The final scene in the movie shows Ed showing off his skills once again as he's built Lorraine a whole new gazebo. They kiss in front of it and gives us a nice little ending. Aww. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It ends with 8 gore points versus 3 bore points, giving us a total of +5. This is how it compares to its predecessors before it. You can see by the points that it's not as good as the first two. It's not a terrible movie, it just doesn't have the highs that the first two have. It's not in any way a bad movie. Join the flock and share your horror passion with us. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you can get notified for our next videos.